Look at Wanda, ready to rock her big presentation. But first, lunch. Sweet Pepper's Deli. Delicious, celebratory, but is it quick? The Cobb salad. Tender oven-roasted chicken, topped with cheese. Prepared, plated, and served? In 6 minutes? Is this for real? Well, of course. Well done, Wanda. Sweet Pepper's Deli. Yes, ma'am. Life is sweet.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 5.
Well, happy Monday evening. Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon here alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor, who we'll talk to in a couple of moments. Thank you for joining us on Mississippi Live Weather at 5. Coming up in this broadcast, a number of things we're going to be talking about here. One of the most important is that we do have our Game of the Week back. It's one of the things that we have talked a lot about during the fall season with football. Well, this time we're doing it, I think, for the first time in this area for basketball. Both boys and girls at basketball are going to be eligible on that. And we have, of course, a good look at that coming up here in just a little bit as well. Near record warmth ahead. One of the many signs that things are probably going to get a little bit more active and storms are likely later on this week. When could they time out? That remains one of the big headlines to start off with here. So here's our severe risk area. We're looking at Friday here. The yellow zone, a level 2 out of 5. That's the lowest that we do this far out. It'd be a 15% likelihood of seeing severe weather within a certain range of a location. The point being this: we have largely avoided storms and severe weather this cold season to this point. This could be our first chance to see some damaging winds, even a limited tornado threat, not impossible at this time. We expect the location of this to evolve over the course of this week, but it's going to be about the correct positioning of moisture and heating and the timing of this system, which is in flux at this point. More on that here in a few minutes, but that is not the issue for tonight. We're still arguably a little bit cool out there this evening. 55 at 6. We're 51 by 9, 49 degrees by midnight, and down to about 50 as we look toward 3 o'clock in the morning. 51 to start the first part of your Tuesday. Outside and 8 at 10 there on the northwest side of Starkville, we show, again, a lot of different layers of clouds up there in the sky, but mainly high clouds as the sun gets closer to the horizon. 55 degrees current temperature in 8 at 10 at this moment. Dew point at about that same value there, a sign that we're just not dropping a whole lot more on temperatures. Macon coming in there at about 61 at this instant. Again, maybe a little bit better color there as we look out that one toward kind of the southwesterly sort of direction. Fairly light winds. Those will pick up this week as we bring in more moisture from the Gulf. And then Batesville, sun a little bit higher. In each of these cases, just a little bit off the screen, which allows us to really kind of focus on the color there. We're 61 degrees. Dew point at 40, so not quite as high as a few other locations. That dew point, one of the critical factors on eventually some storm development, but no issues with that for tonight. As we're coming in with actual temperatures, 59 in Senatobia, 58 in the Eupora, 64 Belzona, our warm spot, as well as Greenville at this instant, 59 for Macon and 55 in Amory. Mount Justice Doppler radar only showing those clouds out there. No precipitation on its latest scans here across the region. Let's talk a little bit about the players as we go throughout this week. Storm system in the north of us, largely a non-factor. You got to go a lot wider than that to start seeing the storm systems that will play a factor in our forecast. And it's the one we have all the way up there in the Gulf of Alaska, or kind of entering the Gulf of Alaska there, and then the one along the west coast. Both of these are going to kind of swoop our direction. And because it takes so long, most of this week, we're not going to have any sort of storms of significance. But I think the first more meaningful rain chance is probably Thursday, the timing when some of those will arrive across the southeastern United States and probably right here in the Magnolia State. But these are just high, thin, largely unimpressive cirrus clouds for tonight that continue to kind of move through our area. And so you can see those fairly widespread, again, cirrus clouds out there. But note down to the south, all those dots represent the winds in the Gulf of Mexico. And that means one thing in particular: moisture starting to return. As that works its way northward, more and more moisture will as well. And this eventually will help to fuel thunderstorms later this week. The questions, largely come around to these storm systems like the one we're showing you to the north just a second ago there, right? As we kind of zoom it in just a little bit north, this storm system and the one after this will have fronts. How much does this try to sweep away the moisture? If it could be very effective at that, eventually that will lead to more limited chances for some rainfall, showers, and thunderstorms. But here across the Magnolia State, we're still ahead of all that. As you can see, with just some clouds out there as we head throughout the late evening and overnight hours. We're looking 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. No real issues out there. You can see some signs of that moisture return out here in Montgomery, Alabama, toward Dothan. That is the first sign of a little bit of moisture returning ahead of our first largely very unimpressive front. Might not see really any rainfall or even thunderstorms associated with this. No thunderstorms with this. Let's be crystal clear. Not expecting a whole lot of rainfall with this kind of first one, as it's going to be multiple kind of waves of these to try to move through our area. So after starting off around 51 degrees, we'll be 57 on your Tuesday, 64 by noon, 69s look toward 3 p.m. The record on the books is in the 70s, so we're going to be within a few degrees of that, but we're much more likely to get close to those record high temperatures as we look toward your Thursday and Friday. I'm going to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, there back at the Weather Center here for just a moment to talk about that. And, Gabe, we have, obviously a decent amount of warmth. Whoop, hold on, because I didn't start the show. I messed that up. I got to get back over here. Let's try that again. There we go. Yeah, see, when I start the show, we don't have to worry about that. Everything's clicked on the right spot there. So we have to click back on vMix, or else when I try to do that, it doesn't punch right. But that's fine. Anyway, records are close the next couple days, right?
Exactly. So tomorrow, the record high is 72 degrees. And I think we remain just below that, but we're close enough to where we can say near record warmth. Beyond that, though, those warm temperatures get even warmer, and those records over the next several days definitely have a chance of being broken. And that's really the story as we head throughout this week.
Okay, pull up those records for me if you would, and we'll talk about that, once we get the 7-day forecast here in a minute, because we do really have some really pretty close chances there as well. Okay, coming up here in 60 seconds, we'll be looking in more detail again at that storm chance later this week, how close we get to the records, and time out some of the rainfall associated with all of that. And Gabe will be talking about that Mississippi Live Game of the Week. Nice to get the hoops action. He is a huge hoops fan. And we'll be bringing on an extra person to help us out with this as well. That and more as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this.
Out with the old and in with the new. It's time to save big at Room to Room's New Year's sale. Store-wide markdowns 50 to 70% off. No tax, 48-month special financing. It's a new year at Room to Room Furniture in Tupelo. There's no place like home.
As a bankruptcy firm, Mitchell, Cunningham, and Bowling realizes many people are worried about their finances. We're here to guide you through the next steps to restart your life with easy video appointments. New clients don't have to leave home to get information about becoming debt-free. Also, convenient in-office appointments are available at the low cost of $340 upfront for a Chapter 13. You can be on your way to being debt-free. Contact Mitchell, Cunningham, and Bowling today or visit our website at mcdebtfree.com. We are here to help you.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lovhawn.
So many beautiful sunsets this evening, and we're glad you're joining us here for Mississippi Live Weather as we're catching a few of those outside in Tupelo, as you can see here, using our camera there on the south side of town. Again, appreciate Mitchell, Cunningham, Bowling for sponsoring our Tupelo Tower Cam there. Just some beautiful colors looking back toward the south and west. You can always share your pictures with us using the Mississippi Live Weather app. Easy to do that, free and available for all those devices. And hey, if you download the app or you know somebody who might have, typically a husband or a friend, said, hey, got it, we'll need it when we get closer to severe weather. Let's make sure it's all up to date. Make sure it's good to go for you as well. We've sent out a few updates over the course of the last 6 months. Can't believe it's been 6 months, but over the last 6 months, we've sent out some updates. Make sure to check on, folks and friends. We do also, of course, do Roku, and hopefully Fire TV is finally coming, but we will see hopefully very soon. I mentioned weather pictures. Our meteorologist, Kayla Bettelblut, here with some snowfall. Give me some context on this, Gabe. I'm going to pop up your microphone behind the scenes here. What's this? Obviously, he's got a deer and some snow, and not fair, right?
Take me home, country roads, to the place I belong, West Virginia.
Oh,
yes,
Lord.
that's where Caleb is. I had to feature it because he's up in West Virginia this
Hope
week.
I don't have to pay royalties on that. Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, it wasn't as accurate as the main artist, of course, so that's the unfortunate part about it. But yes, Caleb is in West Virginia this week. If you saw me on Sunday, that is why I was there, giving him a little bit of a break before that spring semester gets going. And he's enjoying his time up there and enjoying some of that snow as well. If you remember last week, we were on snow patrol. Didn't track much of anything. Well, that's because it was all up north and Caleb enjoying that. He did promise to get us a few pictures, so this is hopefully one of many, but as you can see, he's making some friends up there in West Virginia as well. So appreciate Caleb for sending it in. Enjoy your time off and, of course, enjoy that snowfall as well. But Matt, very jealous that they have snow up there.
Yeah, a little jealous of that as well. I know a lot of folks keep asking me about snow, but it's not a snow day. It is a school day tomorrow. And all God's children said amen. I mean, even mine in the other room in there are really tired of me going, shh, trying to work, shh, trying to fix Mike, shh. So school day tomorrow morning and drop off looking good, 52. We're 62 by lunch and 68 by the final bell. And again, appreciate the folks at IMPC for sponsoring our school day forecast. And it's been fun time with the kids home, but you know, everybody needs to get back to a little bit more normal. As we check out Futurecast this evening, just a few clouds, no precipitation out there as we progress into tonight, just mainly higher thin clouds, we call cirrus clouds, kind of streaming through our skies, made up of ice crystals. Don't be shocked to see another one of those little halos around the moon. Those typically are something to really pop in this situation here, but continuing to, again, keep those mostly cloudy skies associated with that around. And the fact that we're so close to the dew point temperature, that's one of the things that keeps that temperature from dropping as much overnight. So low temperatures going to be down there in the upper 40s, Grenada, about 49, Eupora, as well as Houston and Tupelo, about 50 Starkville, 49 degrees in Columbus, and 48 in Vernon and Hamilton, Alabama. Our normal is about 34, so we obviously way above that as well. Another thing to check here, Gabe, as we talk about this in a minute, look up record high, low temperatures the next few days, just in case. I don't think we're quite there yet, but later this week, every time we get kind of that stormy pattern, you always have to kind of check that out as well. Hey, as we look toward early Tuesday, notice we show just a couple little bits of moisture out there. Front approaching from the west, one of the things that we kind of have working with here. And this is just more than anything kind of moisture returning from the Gulf of Mexico. So it's not going to be a ton of moisture, and we're still just kind of priming, the first little bit of priming the atmosphere as we get closer to this next storm system. Well, really the one after getting in here. But as you can see, just again, mostly dry conditions for tomorrow, despite the fact that we have a little bit of green there on the map. I think most of us, it's probably not a factor that we're contending with, as this is ultimately just drier air behind this front. So high temperatures up to around 69 in Tupelo. As Gabe mentioned, the record on the books is 72. We've hit that one twice over the course of history. I don't know that we're quite there for tomorrow, but not impossible. So as we check out again, about 68 there in Oxford, 70 degrees in Water Valley. We're coming at about 72 there in Tupelo and 71 in Louisville. Gabe, if you would, pop up the microphone a second here. I see my video getting a little bit behind. Tell me if it's got choppy on that end as well.
It got choppy for a brief moment, but the audio is still coming in pretty clear. So we're still looking good on that front, and the information's still coming across, but a few frame drops here and there.
Okay. We've been dealing with a video issue today that's been bugging me for sure. So anyway, we'll see if we can get that ironed out by later on tonight. So as you can see here, blue front, this represents cold air coming in from the north and west. And it's really not much colder. Honestly, it's just drier air. And I think the way in which we plot this on here might be a little too aggressive on just how deep we show this kind of move into the area. Kind of move that through, and as a result, it's that less humid air behind it. You can maybe even see here where the clouds are indicated there, maybe a better positioning on where we have that. Regardless, it kind of slows the return of moisture, and that could then slow our ability to produce eventually some rain chances of more significance and storm chances later this week. So we're mid 40s out there, Holly Springs for early morning on your Wednesday versus upper 40s Eupora and lower 50s Louisville. So there is at least some slightly cooler air associated with this front as it slides through. but obviously still way above what our average for this time of year would typically be. So clouds, we again have fairly widespread clouds closer to that frontal boundary, and we're keeping it dry on Wednesday as well for the most part. But that front largely stalled again to the south. And so moisture starts to kind of return back northward. You can see here as we change it over to our strike model in this hybrid here, those clouds kind of working their way northward, a sign, again, that moisture trying to return. Low 70s out there for highs on Wednesday. That's despite the fact that we again have that cold front try to move through earlier in the day. It just doesn't really tap into a lot of colder air. It's just slightly less humid air, which is why our meteorologist Gabe Maynard is going to dig into the dew points in more detail. He has a punny way to describe that we'll talk about as we tease our 6 o'clock broadcast. That's coming up, obviously, on Mississippi Live Weather at 6. Okay, so let's go wide here for a moment. So a lot of times with high pressure, we wait for that return flow moisture to come out of the Gulf of Mexico. This front has largely kind of capped the northern extent of that. But you can start to see here as we go late in the Wednesday there, more of these clouds. Watch out here to Arkansas, how more of these clouds kind of working their way northward, kind of setting the stage for the first of 2 systems that will try to bring some storm chances fairly close to us. Now, this does not yet have an official severe weather threat on it for locations on the plains. They will probably add one of those in, I think, for tonight, at least based on what Futurecast is showing here for those storm chances back out there on the plains on your Thursday. Timing during the day could be something that limits that just a little bit because that's fairly early day activity. But for us, you can see it's just, and I'll kind of outline what we call the warm sector here. And it's this entire area, right? Oh, hold on. Let's try to do a cleaner job of this. So it's this kind of area right in here, up to that warm front, and then over toward the cold front in there. So this is what we would call the warm sector right there. Okay, and so in this zone, we're bringing in a lot of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico and starting to get the fuel sort of in place for more active weather. For us in particular, I think this is just going to probably end up being just a few showers on Thursday. We still lack the more meaningful fuel, cape instability, however you want to describe it there. There's just not as much with what we have on Thursday. And that could be a factor on how early Friday storms are able to become more active. So as you can see here, as I kind of widen things back out, we got that first batch of showers there. Then we have kind of a second batch that tries to develop here in a moment. And Gabe, when we talk back and forth on this, I'll have you on the wall, and then we'll come back to that for those high temperatures here in a minute. And I'm going to bring Gabe in as we kind of talk about this in more detail here for a second. So let me think, boxes, and here we go. Okay, so as we're kind of looking here at Thursday night, you can clearly see a lot of moisture coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, but we have a difference here between our 2 main projections, right? What we call the European and the American, or GFS, however you want to describe it. Looking at this, which would you say this is in better alignment with at this point here?
See, I would say the positioning of the front actually lines up well with our Euro model, but in regards to all of the prefrontal development, lining up well with the American or GFS, and that's why we are getting some of that strengthening in those early morning hours. Euro actually has it a little bit later on into the day and into the overnight hours into the start of our weekend. So that's where...
So where would you... So if you're looking at Euro, you'd be looking kind of out in this zone here at the same time that we're looking farther east, correct?
Yes, and the thing about the Storm Prediction Center, they weren't as impressed for folks in Alabama to be under that severe weather outlook as you showcased at the start of the broadcast. So they're not looking at a Saturday severe weather threat as of now, but I think if there is still some of that unstable air that tries to stick around there towards Birmingham, not an impossibility to get it into Saturday, but I would still say our best chances remain out there along the Mississippi River for any of that severe weather potential that's in place.
Okay, so it is that difference there that we're kind of calling into contrast here, right? That European model, which is back here a little slower, and our GFS, which is closer in position to what our strike model is as well. The GFS, the American model, the long-range model, goes 384 hours, I think, out, which is a long time. We're talking more than 2 weeks. And so it does... It's one of them we use for longer range. When we get kind of in close, we want some of these higher resolution models. And this is an example of one that we do have, our strike model here. Notice what it does do. Again, it has some activity back out west toward where, you know, our Euro model would have it on that slower timing, but it also has this activity in front. We're not going to get both in all likelihood. Or if we do, we're not going to probably get both to become severe. So that's a positive sign in that. But let's talk about this. So we're looking here 9 a.m. Friday. I'm going to run out of high-res data right at noon, right by the time it starts to get more active here. Here's what you need to know about this. Okay, so if one of the faster models develops and we get this to all kind of form like this, I am very hesitant to say there's really any sort of tornado threat. And honestly, the severe weather threat is probably displaced a little bit to the east. But as Gabe was mentioning a moment ago, that's not the consensus thinking at this point here. And groupthink's never good, but when we start looking at models and projections, we want them to kind of show the same thing over and over again. At this point here, we're still waiting for our models to kind of coalesce around one specific idea. And so this timing, I think, is probably a little bit too fast at this point, but could be or would be best case scenario. Because at this point here, you would have the moisture kind of cut off, right? The moisture's trying to charge north here. And then wherever you have, I'm going to use kind of this brownish sort of line here, wherever you have this front behind it, that air is going to end up being somewhat drier, right? Because this is kind of gobbling up the moisture. So this is really what I could say would be best case scenario is if we had some thunderstorms develop earlier in the day. I think, again, although it is best case scenario, I'm not sure that it's most likely. I would say it still seems probable that this is somewhat more limited. If our trough is just a little bit lower, it's just a little bit slower, this is more limited, and then you have more active weather on the front. And with that timing arriving during the afternoon into the evening and in the overnight hours, that is more our typical time frame this time of year if we're going to see severe weather. So I would say that still definitely very much remains on the table as a possibility out of this. So as we talked about at the top of the broadcast here, we do have a level 2 out of 5 severe weather threat that does involve most locations here that we cover on Mississippi Live Weather, most of our counties that we focus on here back to the Mississippi River. But as you saw, it's not inconceivable some expansion eastward might eventually be likely out of this. So what do we think at this point here? I think at this point when we're talking about the different severe weather levels, this is not a high confidence event by any stretch at this point here. I'd say moderate confidence based on this, that we're looking at some strong wind gusts in excess of maybe 60 miles per hour could cause some sporadic wind damage out of this. A brief spin-up tornado is possible. Based on what I showed you a moment ago, I'm underwhelmed on that potential in a big, big way. But if the timing's a little bit slower, that's where that tornado threat becomes just a little bit greater. Hail, not particularly likely out of this kind of a setup here, winter setup like this. We'll be watching it nonetheless. And we think that limited flooding is possible out of this simply because if you get kind of the initial round and another one round after that, the cumulative nature of it. But again, not overly impressed by that. So wind, probably main factor out of this at this point here, certainly something that we will be looking closely at coming up during our 6 o'clock broadcast here. We'll be looking at a few more details on that. I do want to also remind you, our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley, will have the very latest on those SPC, Storm Prediction Center, those risk areas, and analysis of that tomorrow morning, starting at 6:37 and 7:30 a.m. She's on each and every weekday at those times. If you haven't had a chance to check her out, she does an amazing job, and she is, of course, will get you out the door with all the latest there on Mississippi Live Weather today. Available, of course, here in the Mississippi Live Weather app. Let's look at that 7-day forecast here for a moment. And as we do, Gabe, I'm going to have you probably advance that because it looks like did we log in from a different computer there for a moment? Let's see if I can get this just on all monitors multi-window. Apologize for that. There we go. There's the 7-day forecast back for you. Looks like when I popped Maggie up, my system said, hey, let's take a break. Maybe it's the kids really sucking down bandwidth in the other room there. Either way, near record warmth the next few days here with storm chances on the increase. Friday, the time frame for that. Damaging winds, I'd say the most likely severe weather threat at this point. But the timing, depending on how Euro, evolves here, is really kind of the critical factor on that. 72 there, and then we're back into the 50s as we look towards Saturday. We do expect as we go beyond Saturday there into Sunday and Monday, temperatures get a little bit cooler because while system number 1 coming through tomorrow late in the Wednesday doesn't really, have a big drop in temperatures, and system number 2 doesn't really as well. That third one will be very effective at pushing all the warm and humid air out of here later on this week. Speaking of later this week, I'm going to bring Gabe back in here. He's in the room-to-room weather center back in the studio. And Gabe, obviously, we're looking at those high temperatures and kind of how that feeds into this as well. Near record highs, I think we might.
Yeah, Matt, I mean, exactly what you were talking about with those near record high temperatures. We're going to be dealing with that here for the next several days, or at least the potential at tying or maybe setting some of those record high temperatures. Let's go ahead and go through that list. So what you see behind me is the days of January listed on the far left side, and the next several days, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. You can see that it's going to be warm, as Matt was showing on the 7 days. So those record high temperatures, if we line it up, 72 degrees on the 6th, 75 on the 7th, 73 by the 8th, and 77 by the 9th. Now, I don't know if we set a new record, but one of the big days that I'm seeing stand out is 73 on the 8th. That's going to be working into your Thursday forecast. Our high temperatures are sitting around 72 degrees, so I do think that we have the potential to tie that. But Matt, one of the things that you were talking about was those the high minimums or the high lows. And that's what our record low for the next several days is, right around the upper 50s and low 60s. And you can see on our Friday, starting out around 61 degrees, if we line that up with the 9th, 53 degrees was our record low temperature before, or at least the record high low temperature.
Record high minimum.
Yes, but
I've never been able to figure out the right way to say that effectively. Yeah, but a record high minimum, so at least within striking distance of one of those record highs and high minimums. It just tells you that we'll be abnormally warm for sure.
For sure, and that unstable air, I mean, we need the warmth in order for storms to take place, and that's why this is basically setting the scene leading up over the next several days into what should be an active Friday ahead.
Absolutely. And speaking of active Thursday and Friday, we're doing something again. We're back to sports. Mississippi Live Sports doing some stuff here, of course, with our game of the week. And Gabe, we're doing nominations right now, right?
Exactly. So wherever you want us to head, it's going to be, again, on your Thursday, because we know Friday is a little bit more active, so we need to be here in the room-to-room weather center. So if you have any games, and we've gotten a few submissions, go ahead and put them down in the comments, and we're going to do a poll tomorrow that can vote on where you guys want us to head. And of course, we'll showcase one of those games at our game of the week and be able to be there with you guys in the community, have those highlights. And Matt, we are adding one member to the team that will go over those highlights with us. But some of the mentions that we do have is the Prentice County tournament. We also have the Union County tournament. And I believe the Alcorn County tournament's happening as well. Yes, Jimbo submitting that there on the bottom of your screen. So lots of tournaments this week. And I'm always a big fan of a tournament, especially when it's a basketball tournament, Matt.
Well, and it might end up being something that this week you end up going out here for this first one, just because of the one of the things we have to balance is the severe weather portion of this, right?
Sure.
We kind of knew that would be a factor. Obviously, we are weather first here on Mississippi Live Weather, but we do appreciate the good folks at Langston and Lott for kind of pairing up with us again here for our game of the week and sponsoring us. And we appreciate all of our sponsors here that help us out to be able to bring you the best coverage here on the Mississippi Live Weather. One of those, of course, Room to Room, sponsoring our weather center here. And we're going to be back here in the Room to Room Weather Center at 6 p.m. Our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, your audio's still up behind the scenes there. What do you have for us at 6?
How do you do? Yeah, I'll let you guys ponder that question heading into the 6 o'clock broadcast, and we'll have that answer coming up in our next broadcast here shortly.
And it, of course, also pertains to severe weather chances, 5, 6, and 10 every day, 6:30, 7, 7:30 a.m. We'll see you at 6.
Growing up, Gabe was naturally curious. When he began to discover weather, Gabe just didn't want to know what was happening, but he wanted to know why it was happening. Gabe became fascinated with tornadoes, and it impacted his life. He wanted to pursue a career in meteorology. Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.